Ciao, in today's lesson we're going to talk about the tactile control over Pro Tools. More in the specific, I'm going to teach you how to use the Pro Tools keyboard as your secret weapon inside the recording studio. Using your Pro Tools keyboard to access function you use regularly is going to let you access and acquire a certain speed and precision while editing and mixing. It's very important for you to start using the keyboard, and day by day you're going to start developing a sort of muscle memory that is going to let the technicality of this part aside and let your creativity take over. Now it's really important to do so that you're going to start using an extended keyboard as such, in order for you to access the variety of shortcuts that the Numeric keypad has to offer you. There are 4 ways to access all your function through your keyboards, and Pro Tools gives you 4 different ways to do so. First of all, you have modifier keys. Second of all, you got focus keys. The third way is your function keys, and then you have your Numeric keypad. I'm gonna go ahead and dissect step by step the Pro Tools keyboard in order for you to truly understand how to use this magic tool within your studio. By holding down a modifier key while performing a key press or a mouse click, you can access a variety of Pro Tools shortcuts. The 4 main modifier keys you have to keep in mind are Command, Option or Alt, Shift, and Control. A series of functions can be accessed by holding down the modifier keys while clicking on the track controls in the mixer or in the edit window. So if I move to the mix window, for instance, by holding down Command and clicking on any of the inserts, I can make the insert bypassed. I'm holding down Command again on my sends and I can bypass the send. Another thing I could do could be expanding the view of my sends. So I could hold down again my modifier keys, Command, and click on this little arrow over here next to the send in order for me to display a larger view of my sends. I could always click on the send and maximize it, but for the time being I could expand all my sends and see everything that goes in it, and I can adjust the level, the pan, the mute, the pre and the post fader. I can hold down Command again and minimize my send. Another thing I could do, well, could be by holding down a combination of modifier keys. Let's say I need to assign both of these tracks to another output or input, or let's say I want to select these tracks, so I could click on the first track, hold down Shift, and this will allow me to create a contiguous selection. And then by holding down Shift Option, I could apply a do to selected command, and I could assign the exact same output or bus in this case. See, right now they're going to bus 1 and 2. I'm going to do the exact same thing, and again they've been routed to bus 1 and 2. By holding down Option and click on a selection, I can deselect or select my entire session. And Option is as well a very dangerous modifier key because Option triggers the function do to all. So if I hold on Option and I do anything on my insert, sends, input or output, will make that function valid for all the tracks, no matter if they're selected or not. Another thing I could do with my modifier keys could be, again, select 2 tracks, and again by selecting Shift Option I could assign simultaneously the exact same automation, and I can remove the exact same automation. Now there are other very useful functions that you could do by utilizing the modifier keys. I'm going to move back into my edit window, Command equal, and again, let's say I want to solo up these lead vocals. I could simply select the track and hold down Shift and the letter S, and right now, as you can see there, my track has been soloed. Shift S to unsolo it, Shift M to mute the track, and if we let me minimize this. To minimize it, by the way, I've used another modifier keys, Control up arrow to increase the size of a track, Control down arrow to reduce the size of a track. Again, still with my Shift Control enable, I could Shift R record enable a track, Shift R remove the arm record, I could Shift I to enable the input monitoring. Nonetheless, again, something that is very common on a lot of the auxiliary tracks returns is that they have to be solo saved. So to solo save a track, you will hold down Command and click on the S, and then as you can see, if I do that, the S grays out. That means that now the track is solo saved. So as you can see, there are a series of commands that gets triggered with modifier keys. The most important one is, of course, the flipping between the window. So to go from one window to another, from the mix window to the edit window, you will have to press Command equal. To bring up my MIDI window editor, in this case we don't have any window here, but it's Control equal. I can move forward. If I would be working in a post-production session, Command 9 on the numeric keypad in this case would bring up the video window. Another thing you could do between the special functions of the command and click is to adjust and fine-tune two tracks. So as you can see right now, let me check this 480 room. So this track right now is at 0. Let's say I want to perform or find the right volume for the return of this effect. By holding down Command, right now, no matter how fast I move my mouse, the little fader is gonna do increment of volume or lowering the volume of 0.1 dB each time. So I could adjust to perfection the level of my track. To normal the track and bring the fader at unity, you would hold down Option and click. Again, going back to fine-tuning, you could hold down Command and click on the pan pot over here, and again, this will move by 1 unit very slowly, so you can find the right amount of stereo imaging to your tracks. Another great thing you could do, could use a combination of all 3 modifier keys, and if I would use the combination of Shift, Option, Command, I could actually create a cascade path from the lower number to the highest number. Actually, let me do this on stereo tracks. So I've selected these 3 stereo tracks, or let me actually do it here, which I have a little bit more. So Shift, Option, Command. I'm gonna go on the output, and I will go ahead and select, I just need to select one. So I'm gonna go on 39 and 40 and look what happened to the outputs. 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, so on and so forth. So this is a great way, especially if you need to assign different inputs prior to a recording. Now again, I have to reassign all the selected outputs to the same mix bus. Shift Option due to selected. Go into my buses and assign them to my mix bus. Done. The keyboard focus in Pro Tools assigns a vast variety of shortcuts to single keys without letting you use the modifier keys to access them. The keyboard can be focused on different areas of the Pro Tools user interface, having each one of the focus modes mapping the key to different functions. For instance, here in the edit window, we're starting with the default one, which is signed with this little yellow square A to Z. This means we have the common focus modes on. This is one of the most used Pro Tools modes. It provides a single key shortcut from the alphanumeric keyboard and is generally used for editing purposes. For instance, on this track over here, I could simply press the letter B to separate, and then let's say I want to undo, I can only press the letter Z instead of pressing Command Z. And the list goes on and on. I could go again here and press the letter G in order to apply a fade out, Z to undo. But the edit window offers 2 other different focus modes. The second one is the clip list focus mode over here. The clip list focus mode applies again to the right side column, which is the clip list columns, and allows you to easily recall different clips within your Pro Tools session. The third and last focus mode is on your group list over here. Now this is very handy because when you create a group, and to create a group you would press Command G, the group lets you choose a specific group ID. Now why choosing a specific group ID is really important. Well, that's because right now, as you can see over here in the bottom end of my group list, I have 3 edit groups labeled drum groups edit, guitar edit, and vocals edit. So what I did with the group focus mode active, I actually have selected a letter ID that corresponds to the initial letter of the name of the group of instrument. So right now by pressing D, I can enable or disable the drum groups. By pressing G, I can enable or disable the guitar group. And by pressing V, I can enable or disable my vocals. So it's that easy. And right now my brain has to focus only on the creative part of what I'm doing, whether if it's editing, mixing, or recording. Now, this is a giver. There is a very fast way to toggle between these 3 different focus modes: the command focus mode, the clip list focus mode, and the group list focus mode. You will have to hold down Option, Command, and by pressing 1 on the numeric keypad, you can access the main command focus mode. Option Command 2 on the numeric keypad is going to let you access the clip list focus, and Option Command 3 on the numeric keypad will let you access the group focus mode. Now, in the mix window, you only have access to the group list, so you don't have the clip list nor the edit window. So again, it becomes fairly easy, again pressing D to deactivate my drum group edit, and D again to re-enable it. And so it's that easy. So mastering how the keyboard works can make you speed up your workflow, and again, making you focus more on what really matters, which is music. The pink side of your keyboard refers to all the edit functions, with the exception of the letter G, D, and F, which refers to fades, which are still in relation to the edit functions, but they're labeled in purple. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is to move into my group focus, Option Command 3 on the numeric keypad, and then press Shift Command G in order to make all the groups disabled. Option Command 1 to bring my focus key on my edit window. And now I'm going to start explaining key by key all the pink color coded keys. I'm going to go ahead and select this track over here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So in order to make the track bigger, you have to hold down Control and press up arrow. And I'm going to start with the first 2 letters, A and S. As you can see right now, I have placed my cursor on a precise location on a clip. If from wherever I place my cursor, I press the letter A, I will trim the beginning of the clip to the current location. Z to undo. If I would press S instead, I will trim the clip end to current location. Now, in order to place a cut or to separate these 2 files, I'm going to actually make them a little bit bigger. I will press B. As you can see right now, we have created 2 separated clips. Now, based on where my cursor is, if I would press the letter D, I will create a fade in. If I'm going to move towards the end of my click, but what matters is where I place my cursor over here, if I press the letter G, in this case, I will create a fade out. Don't mind the type of fades I'm using, I will explain them in a later tutorial. I'm going to press Z to undo. And as you can see here, we are still back at our default state where we have 2 adjacent clips. By selecting a portion of the 2 clips, having the actual cut in between would allow me to create a crossfade by pressing the letter F. So again, I will repeat. To create a crossfade, you have to make a selection between 2 clips ends and beginning and pressing the letter F. To create a fade in, you have to place your cursor in a precise location around the clip and press the letter D. To create a fade out, what you have to do is again do the exact same thing, most likely toward the ends of the clip, and press the key G. I'm gonna now go ahead and press Z to undo. And we're back at our default state. We didn't actually explain the key, but by pressing Z on the keyboard, you are undoing. If you want to redo something, at that point you have to add a couple of modifier keys to that. As a matter of fact, if you press Shift Command Z, you're going to be redoing your action. Again, Shift Command Z, Shift Command Z, and I'm redoing everything that I've done before. Z to undo and get back to my default state. Now if I select a part of a clip, let's say this portion over here, I could do a few things. By pressing the letter C, I'm copying this part, and I can paste it with V in any location I want. Z to undo. I could cut a precise part of a clip, and again I could paste this anywhere I want. V to paste. Z to undo. Next in line, there is our N key, which most of the time gets triggered by mistake because it's very close to the spacebar or to the B letter. N, which on the keyboard is actually a slightly orange key, stands for Insertion Follow Playback, which is also this little key command over there. So if I press N, you can see that the Insertion Follow Playback lights up in blue. So when Insertion Follow Playback is on, what happens is when Insertion Follow Playback is on, or better is lighted in blue, what happens is that once I playback the song, wherever I stop the playback cursor, the playback will restart from that exact point. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you a sample. The song, by the way, it's called Summer Blues by an artist called Matteo. As you can see, my cursor has stopped exactly where I stopped the playback, and if I want to take over from where I stopped, it will restart from wherever I stop. When instead Insertion Follow Playback N is off, wherever I place my playback cursor is exactly where my playback will begin each time. So those are just two different ways to work with the actual playback. Now we get to the very interesting part, which is locating and nudging things around. Now the nudge value can be set it up here by the nudge playback. So right now I have it set it up in samples, and I generally work with 1,000 samples, which correspond more or less to 10 milliseconds. I found this to be a very musical nudge value. Now you could increase or decrease the nudge value by holding down Option command and pressing minus and plus on the numeric keypad. You could do the exact same thing with the grid resolution, which is not a topic we're going to cover right now, but since we're here, by holding down Control Option plus and minus, in this case I can increase or decrease the resolution of my grid. I'm gonna go back to my nudge. So let's keep it to 1,000 samples. If I would select this clip, I'm gonna cut it. Now the nudge applies with two different sets of commands. So by pressing dot on the alphanumeric keypad or comma, I could nudge forward. Actually, let me increase the nudge value so you can see it better. I'm gonna go to 10,000 samples. So by pressing dot, I'm nudging out 10,000 samples to the right. If I press comma, I'm nudging 10,000 samples to the left. The same applies if using the numeric keypad, plus and minus. With plus, I'm nudging forward. With minus, I'm nudging backwards. Now there are a few keys that are really cool about the nudge. So I'm gonna go and get really close to this file and trim it. I'm gonna go back to 1,000 milliseconds of nudge. So as we said before, by pressing comma or dot, you can nudge forward or backward. Now, if I use M or forward slash, as you can see here, I'm using forward slash. I'm gonna go back and use M. In this case, I'm nudging still forward and backward, but I'm nudging by the larger value in the nudge list. In other words, by using M and forward slash, I'm nudging of the larger value within my nudge field. So over here, if my nudge value is set to 1,000 samples, that means that by pressing M and forward slash, I'm nudging by the larger nudge value in the nudge list. That means 10,000 samples. If my nudge values was 10 milliseconds, by pressing M and / I would have been nudging by 100 samples, and so forth. Let's now assume, I'm gonna press Z to undo everything we have just done. So let's assume right now we're listening to the song and we have to highlight a precise section while playback. Now Pro Tools allows you to mark the start of the edit selection and mark an end by using the up and down arrow. Down arrow. I've applied a mark in. Mark out. So right now, as you can see, I have made my selection using a mark in and mark out, which right now I could, by Option F, extend throughout the whole edit window. I'm gonna go back to my default zoom presets. Another very cool feature has to do with the snap clip to a precise location. I'm gonna choose a different sound. Let's go over here and see what we got. Let's change guitar. Nice. All right. So right now what we could do is to separate this. And the following trick or the following shortcut works especially if you work with timeline and edit selection deselected. The edit timeline and edit selection is this blue square over here. So what I'll do is uncheck it. So right now this would allow me to create an edit selection and as well a timeline selection. In this case I have two separate playback, so to speak, regions, a timeline and an edit selection. So what I could do is to, let's say on my edit selection, go to bar 51. So my cursor is right now at bar 51. I have made my selection over here. And now I could use three different keys which are highly underestimated, which are H, J, and K. So what H will do, will snap the beginning of the clip exactly where our cursor on our timeline is. What K will do, will snap the end of the clip right where our timeline is. And now something super cool that involves creating a sync point. I'm gonna zoom in. To create a sync point, let's say I want to sync this exact part with bar 51. So now that I've placed my cursor, by pressing Command, comma, I have created a sync point. Now what I could do is to move to bar 51, which is exactly where my cursor is over here. And now what I want to do is to snap my sync point exactly where my timeline is. So what I'll do is press the letter J. And as you can see, if I zoom in real close, my sync point has snapped exactly at bar 51. So those are great ways that you could use to move the clips around the region or in the session to really precise locations. I'm gonna cover a tutorial on how to snap clips around the session in a later video. The letters above that, Y, U, and I, works in the exact same ways, but they are called snap to timecode. That means that they snap the clips to a time location that is characterized by a precise timecode. This is greatly used in post-production rather than in music production. So what I'll do, I'm going to zoom out. So right now, as you notice, we have deselected or unlinked the edit selection from the timeline selection. So there are a few other ways in order to make one of this selection fall on the other. If I press O on the alphanumeric keypad, this will allow me the timeline selection to follow the edit selection. As a matter of fact, as you saw, right now my timeline selection has snapped exactly where my edit selection is. I'm gonna do the exact same thing, so having two selections. So what I'll do right now is doing the opposite. Right now I want my edit selection to snap where my timeline selection is. And to do so, I have to press the number 0 on the alphanumeric keypad. And as you can see right now, the two selection now, one is following the other. I generally, if I'm not using this mode, I prefer to work with edit and timeline selection on. I find myself to be a little bit more organized. But when I'm working in post-production, especially for film or commercials, I found this way of having two different types of playback and selection be very handy. So I hope you understood how important it is to understand the editing functionalities of your keyboard, because you could speed up your workflow and again think less about the technicality of it and perform edit like if Pro Tools is a music instrument. The yellow section of your keyboard in this case refers to all the zoom features, display, and numeric entry functions. Alright, I'm gonna start first with the most useful key or the most useful shortcuts I use the most. First of all, we got R and T. R and T are our zoom in and zoom out horizontally shortcut. So by pressing T, I can zoom in, and by pressing R, I'm zooming out. Another very cool zoom feature is this one over here. There's 4 arrows, which stands for the zoom toggle, which can be accessed by pressing the letter E. So let's say I want to make this section over here of my lead vocal big enough in order for me to perform some sort of edit. I could press E and I will make this fit to window. Now this is something you can customize from the setup menu, preferences, command 3 to go on editing, and as you can see here, zoom toggle, I have set my track height to fit to window. So by pressing E right now, I could fit whatever selection to window. You could choose between, different size of the tracks, but I find this to be the most useful for myself. Click OK. Alright, so again with E, I can zoom toggle any section, and I could even zoom toggle more than one track. I can make this selection pressing E. This will make the edit selection fit in the entire edit window and will make it big enough to fit to window. Remember to press E to remove the zoom toggle. And as you can see up here underneath the edit tools, every time the zoom toggle is on, these 4 arrows are lighted in blue. Now another very useful feature is the minus on the alphanumeric keypad. I'm gonna make this track larger enough. By pressing the minus on the alphanumeric keypad, I can toggle the track view. In this case, on an audio track, you get to switch between the waveform view and the automation view. So as you can see, I could do this on any track, wherever I put my cursor. If I want to view all the tracks automation line, again, we could use a modifier keys option. So by holding down option, pressing minus, now all my tracks in my entire session are displaying an automation. To remove this, again, do to all, option, minus, and I toggle my automation line back. This other automation belongs to auxiliary tracks, so that's the only view they get. Going back to our zoom, as you can see over here, we also have a couple of other zoom features, which are represented by 5 numbers. This 1, 2, 3, and 4 can be found within your alphanumeric section of your keyboard, and those correspond to precise recall zoom presets. As a matter of fact, by pressing 1, I access 1 level of zoom, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now the cool thing about this is that you can not only recall different zoom levels, you can also customize them. So let's say on number 1, I'm gonna press R to zoom out. This is the zoom level I want on number 1. By holding down command and click on the number 1, look what happened. It lights up in blue, and now number 1 has always this level of zoom. I'm gonna move to a larger zoom. Okay, command and click on 2. So right now if I press 1 on the alphanumeric keypad, I have my first level of zoom saved. 2, 3, I can go to 5, back to 1. Again, those are just faster way to access your zoom. I could always use R and T to zoom in and zoom out, but if you find yourself, especially when doing editing, working with this level of zoom, you can memorize this, press say on number 4. So right now I can do my edit. Number 1, I have my entire session. Number 2, I have a little bit more details. Number 4, this level, and just for very meticulous editing, number 5, I've memorized a completely zoomed out waveform. I'm gonna zoom out by pressing R. Actually, 1, it's just faster. So on the numeric keypad side of things, there are 3 keys which are really helpful. The first one is the asterisk. So by pressing asterisk, I can access my main counter up there. And now let's say I want to move my edit cursor to bar, let's say 45. I can type 45 and now I'm there. Again, pressing asterisk, I can access my main counter and maybe move to bar 13. There I am. I might want to move to bar 20, beats 2, and there I am. So again, it's just a faster way to move around your session. Now, right next to the asterisk, there is a slash. The slash corresponds still to the main counter, but it lets you select the start, the end, or an overall length of a selection. So I'm gonna press the forward slash. And as you can see right now, my forward slash has highlighted my start. By pressing forward slash again, I can go to an end or to a length. So let's say I will press asterisk, move to bar 10. And now I want to make a selection of 4 bars. So I can press forward slash 1, 2 times to go to length and say 4 bars. And now I have made it a timeline selection of 4 bars. Now let's say I am in my edit selection. I can do the exact same thing. So let's say I want to start a bar 20, forward slash, and finished a bar 30, and I've created my selection. So this is just another great way in order for you to access and make very precise selections. Another cool feature that you have is this equal still on the numeric keypad. Now this is used to capture a timecode. Again, timecode is a precise way of measuring the time, especially when working with video. Right now we are set to bars and beats. I can set this up with timecode. And right now this has the exact same function as entering a precise timecode. So I can go 00, 00, 53, 00, and I've just moved my cursor. Again, for music, timecode is not very well used, but primarily for videos, that's what you're going to be using. You're not going to be using bars and beats. On the alphanumeric keypad, you have another equal, which generally we use it in conjunction with command to move from edit window to mix window. By pressing only that equal, that's called capture timecode. So pretty much this auto enters the current incoming LTC timecode when the timecode field is highlighted in the dialog box. And this primarily works with the spot dialog box, as you can see over here. Now those are just great way to move really fast within your session and also to adopt different levels of zoom that will simplify your life, especially when you have to do very detailed editing. The orange function is possibly the most used function ever, as it's going to let you access all the edit modes and the edit tools. On the top left corner of your edit window, you're going to find the edit modes and the edit tools. The edit modes affect the movement and placement of audio and MIDI clips within your session, whereas the edit tools are primarily used to select, move, trim clips inside your Pro Tools. I'm going to start with the edit tools. Now, to work with your MIDI and Pro Tools, you will usually use the edit tools within your edit window. Now, from left to right, we have the magnifying glass, also called the zoomer tool, which can be accessed with F5. Right next to it, we have the trimmer tool, which you can access by pressing F6. Right next to it, we have the selector tool, which can be accessed by pressing F7. Right next to it, we have the grabber tool, F8. To then finish up with the scrubber tool, F9, and the pencil tool, F10. Some of these tools have secondary functions. For instance, by pressing F5, I will access my zoomer tool or magnifier glass. By pressing or right-clicking on it, I could access a second function, also called single zoom tool. Now, what this will let me do is, let's say I'm in with my selector tool, and I'm here within the session, and I need to zoom in this particular part. By pressing F5, now I'm with my magnifier glass, I can zoom in, and as soon as I let go, not only have zoomed in, but the tool has come back to the previous selected edit tool, which was my selector tool. This is a very handy feature within Pro Tools. Now, other secret or hidden menus can be found within my trimmer tool, F6, and now by right-clicking, I could access the time compression expansion, my scrubber tool, and my loop tool. Another hidden function is within my grabber tool, F8. So right-click, and I can choose between separation and object. And then within my pencil tool, I have the most of the secret or hidden functions. As a matter of fact, if I right-click, I can go freehand, line, triangle, square, random, parabolic, and S-curve. I will be covering the edit tools in another tutorial focused on Pro Tools, so bear with me if I just don't dive in right in within this tutorial. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about the edit tools is that you can activate a mode called Smart Tool by pressing the combination of F6 plus F7 or F7 plus F8. So F6 plus F7, as you can see, all three of these edit tools have been selected, and they have to do primarily with my clip. So by positioning my mouse on the top half of this clip, I have my selector tool. By positioning my mouse in the lower half of this clip, I got my grabber tool. By positioning my mouse on the left edge of a clip, I could trim in. To the right edge of a clip, I can trim in the end of a clip. By placing the cursor on the upper left corner, I can create a fade in. By placing my cursor on the upper right corner, I can create a fade out. And by placing the cursor between two split clips, I could create a crossfade. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Smart Tool, primarily because I'm really used to work with very small waveform resolution. Therefore, as you can understand, it's very hard for me to spot or to actually access a precise key command. Therefore, I highly encourage you to work with the F6, 7, 8, and so forth in order to access the tool that you need to work on. Lastly, I didn't explain one thing. As you could see, I could access all my secondary menu within my edit tools by right-clicking, and there is a reason being. In the options, I have actually locked my edit tools, as you can see over here, to my keyboard. If this option is off, as you can see, by double pressing, I'm pressing F8, I could switch between all the hidden menus. Now, this is something that could become a little bit of a pain, because let's say you're doing an editing and you get really fast in edit, you might misclick a function, and let's say right now my trimmer tool has become a TCE, time compression and expansion, which could cause, as you can see right now, a little bit of a problem as I have time compressed and expanded a clip. Therefore, I generally set my primarily edit tools, let's say standard when it comes to my trimmer tool, my magnifier glass with my single zoom toggle on, and then my grabber tool stays in separation mode. Once I've found the actual edit tools profile that I like, I go to my option and lock them. So now even if I double click or triple click, as you can see, there is a little lock that appears underneath my grabber tool, and this means that I cannot change that function by pressing my F8, but I have to right click, which I generally find is the safest way to go. Lastly, we have our edit modes. Now, these modes, as I said before, affects the movement and the placement of audio and MIDI clips around your session. And those are four. They're known to be shuffle, slip, spot, and grid. And they can be activated by pressing F1, shuffle, F2, split, F3, spot, and F4, grid. Now again, I will have a whole new series covering these edit tools and edit modes more in the specific. So this tutorial is primarily to get you to access these modes within your keyboard. The blue color on your keyboard refers to all the functionalities that are related to transport and location functions. Now, among all shortcuts, the transport and location functions are the most underestimated shortcuts ever, and by default, some of my favorite shortcuts. Now, in order to work properly with the blue colored shortcuts or with the blue color keys on your keyboard, I recommend you to unlink Timeline and Edit Selection over here. I'm going to show you the two ways I love to work. For now, I'm going to start working with Link and Timeline Edit Selection off. So I'm going to go ahead and create two different selections, one on my timeline and one on my edit selection. So let's start with my timeline. I will select from bar 31 to bar 35. That's my timeline selection. Then, as you can see on my edit selection, I have a bigger selection, which I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to go with, let's say, from here, bar 11 to bar 13. So we have two discrete selections. We got bar 11 to 13, which is our edit selection, and bar 31 to 35, which is our timeline selection. Now, I'm going to start by playing both of the selections. So by pressing the left square bracket, I could play whatever it's contained within my edit selection. By pressing the right square bracket, I could play everything that is contained within my timeline selection. This is an incredibly useful tool to start using. It's primarily used, again, more in post-production for film and television rather than in music. But again, let's say you have a chorus selected, but you still need to do some editing, or maybe the producer is asking you to play only a little section within the verse. In order for you not to lose the selection on your chorus, you have your timeline selection selected, and then you can use the edit selection to play that selection back. Then to again remarry both of the selection, if you remember correctly, we have either O or 0. O to match the timeline selection to fit, or actually to match the edit selection, and 0, the edit selection matching the timeline selection. So let's say I want to match my edit selection with my timeline selection, I will press 0. And there you have it. This workflow just speeds up everything you need to do in terms of playback. I will go back and again reselect from bar 11 to 13, and as you can see, my timeline selection stays still. Alright, so now we have these two selections, and I will play with two different keys, still in the blue relay. So everything on the alphanumeric part of my keyboard refers to my timeline selection in this case. So by pressing Q, I could center the start of my timeline selection. So again, I will zoom in, and if I press Q, I have now centered the beginning of my timeline selection. If I press W, I will center the end of my timeline selection. If you remember, we have another selection which is made of our edit selection. So in this case, I will use the left and right arrow. Left arrow will center the beginning or the start of my edit selection. Let's zoom in even more. And if I press right arrow, this will center the end of my edit selection. This is very, very useful because let's say you are about to create some crossfades, which over here we already have. So what I'll do is remove that. So let's say you're doing some fine editing. I could go here, trim with A, click D, and then I need to go to the end of the clip, so I can double click my clip and press right arrow. I am at the end of the clip, and I can place my fade out. Oh, maybe I forgot something to the beginning of the clip. Double click, I select my edit selection, left arrow, and there I am. Again, I need to center my beginning of my timeline selection, Q, and there it is. So it's a super fast way to work with these two things. In music, primarily, these two will be married together. So I will link the edit selection to my timeline selection, and there you have it. So you can easily go between the beginning and the end of a selection by pressing either Q or W or left or right arrow. It doesn't matter. If the edit and line timeline selection are linked together, they work as the same. But the goal here is to work them in order for you to have two different type of playback. One on your edit. Actually, I'm gonna go back into my grid mode. one on my edit selection. Let's do 33 to 35, and one on my edit selection. So once again, I could play my edit selection with my left square bracket, and I can play my timeline selection with my right square bracket. Incredibly useful shortcut. Now the next shortcuts referring to navigations are my absolute time favorite. I'm talking about P and semicolon. Now these shortcuts work very well when the edit selection is linked to track. Over here, as you can see, link track to edit selection is on. That means that no matter where my cursor is, my track are gonna follow it. So that applies also for selections. So I could select this part of a clip or this part of a clip, and as you can see, my track will follow my edit selections. So by pressing P right now, I could preserve my selection and moving the edit selection up. By pressing semicolon, I could preserve my selection and move my selection down. And this works as well with my cursor. So as you can see, my cursor is flashing over here. I could press P, and now you only have to see where my tracks are gonna light up in order for you to see where my cursor is. Again, I'm pressing P to go up and semicolon to go down. You could even make, if you want, a group selection. So right now, let's go to my lead vocals. By holding down Shift and pressing semicolon, I could select all the tracks below my selected tracks. By pressing Shift and P, I could select all the tracks above. Again, to lose the selection, hold on Option and click on whatever tracks. Now this is very useful because let's say you will have to copy and paste a precise part of a clip somewhere. I could, let's say, go on my Celista over here. I could cut with X, move down the selection, and press V to paste it. And there you have it. It's that simple. There are two other navigation keys which are very useful, and those are L and the single quote. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with a precise command called tab to transient, which is displayed over here. Now, tab to transient can be activated or deactivated by pressing Option Command Tab and Option Command Tab again to reactivate it. So I'm gonna choose this track over here since I see a lot of transient content. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So if tab to transient is on, every time I press tab, my cursor will snap to the beginning of each single transient. Whereas when tab to transient is off, I will just, for the purpose of this demonstration, create separate clips. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and deactivate tab to transient, Option Command Tab. Right now, the tab to transient becomes tab to beginning or end of a clip. As a matter of fact, look what happened when I press tab. It's at the beginning of my clip, tab again, the end of my clip, tab again, beginning of the clip, tab again, end of a clip. Right now, I will reactivate tab to transient to show you the actual effect on the next clip. So Option Command Tab. So tab, and it becomes tab and is at the beginning of this clip. Now if I press tab, instead of snapping to the end of the clip, it will snap to the beginning of each transient. Tab, 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 tab. I'm gonna zoom in even more. Tab, tab, tab. So tab to transient lets you identify the beginning of each transient. Now, as I said before, there are a few other navigation keys which are really helpful, and those are L and single quote. Now, L and single quote work pretty much exactly like tab to transient does. As a matter of fact, L when tab to transient is off, so Option Command Tab, or you can simply click with your mouse to enable or disable it. So pressing L, I will move to the beginning of the clip. By pressing single quote, I will move to the end of it. If I would reactivate my tab to transient, Option Command Tab, I could press single quote to actually tab to transient, and L to go back, still utilizing my tap to transient. So this is another extremely useful function. Now here is a little trick. Let's say I want to select these two transients. By holding down Shift and Tab, I could actually create a selection. Let's say I want to select or make a selection from the beginning of the selection prior to that. I could hold down again Shift and press L, and again the L now it's tabbing to the beginning of the transient, creating a full length selection. Then I can always lose the selection by pressing Mark Start, and there you have it. Now, among all the transport function, the one that is absolutely the most used worldwide is the spacebar. The spacebar identifies the playback or stop. So whatever I place my cursor and I press spacebar and stop. So again, there was no need to explain furthermore what the spacebar does. Along with the spacebar, we have another set of playback, and that has to do with the numeric keypad. As a matter of fact, the 0 on the numeric keypad allows me to play back the session and stop the session in the exact same manner the spacebar does. But there is a difference. As a matter of fact, Pro Tools and the actual keyboard, the extended version of a keyboard, gives you the option to control two different playback at the same time. This has to do especially when working with the Workspace browser. So I'm going to open my Workspace browser. The Workspace browser could be opened by Window, Workspace, or by pressing the shortcut Option semicolon. So from the Workspace browser, I could access all the drives connected to my computer and search through my music library or sound design libraries. For the time being, I have already saved something into my desktop over here, which is a drum loop. So here where the two playback come very handy, because with one playback, the spacebar, I could actually play back the loop within my Workspace browser. And with the 0 on my numeric keypad, in this case, I could play back my song. Now, the amazing thing you could do is pressing 0 to play back whatever is in Pro Tools and waiting not even a couple seconds, press spacebar. And what this will do, as you can see here, there is a green metronome, will time stretch and compress the actual loop to match the tempo of your song. So it's a great way to audition things that you are planning to import within your session. So right now I'm gonna start by pressing 0 to play back my session, and then spacebar to hear whatever is selected within my Workspace browser. And that's why using an extended version of a Pro Tools keyboard gives you maximum ability to do anything you want in order to enhance your creativity. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and close the Workspace browser. And now, as you can see, in my previous demonstration, I have done some cuts. Now I'm gonna show you a very useful shortcut that will heal this separation. As a matter of fact, I haven't moved any of this clips around, so I could perform something called heal separation. This involves by selecting all the clips which have a cut in between, and by pressing Command H, I have now heal separated my clip. Along with heal separation, you could perform another shortcut which is called trim to selection. So I could select my files, Command T, and right now I have performed something called trim to selection. Stay tuned for a tutorial that I'll be doing shortly on the most useful shortcut that you could use within your session. Alright, I'm gonna go back to the last part of our transport and location functions. So Z to undo whatever I did. I'm gonna minimize this track. And I'm gonna move down here where our vocals are. So right now I want to talk to you about the numbers present on the alphanumeric part of our keyboard and on the numeric keypad. So I'm gonna start with the number 6, 7, 8, and 9 present on the alphanumeric part of our keyboard. These numbers play a short duration of audio based on a precise number set it up within our pre and post roll. The pre and post roll can be found over here if you have enabled to view your transport functions, or by opening on the transport window, Command 1 on the numeric keypad. Here's where you can find your pre and post roll. Now, pre and post roll by default are turned off. To toggle the pre and post roll on and off, you have to use the shortcut Command K to turn them back on and off. Again, this is a little tip. If you don't know how to toggle things on and off, there is a precise menu that does this, and this is the option menu. So every time you need to turn something on and off or toggle something on and off, this is the menu that you want to go. But again, knowing shortcuts allows you to speed up your workflow without scrolling around where the right parameter is. But as you can see here, pre and post roll can be enabled from this menu. All right, Command K, turn them back on. So I'm gonna go here in my pre and post roll and set it up a pre-roll of 1 bar. Then if you remember before, if I press the /, I could move down, and let's say a post roll of 2 bars. Okay, Command 1 to hide my transport window. As you can see, as soon as I have set it up a pre and post roll, I have these 2 little flags, these 2 yellow flags, which pretty much determines how long before the actual selected track I will start hearing a sort of like leading in this part, and then there is a little part afterwards. So I'm gonna let you hear. I'm gonna press play. There you have it. I will link the timeline and edit selection because that's how I prefer to work right now. And as you can see, wherever I move my cursor, the 2 flags, yellow flags identifying pre and post rolls, are always on. I generally use pre and post roll when I'm tracking rather than when I'm playing back a song, but these 2 flags allow me to explain exactly what the numbers on the alphanumeric keyboard do. So let's say, let me change this to another section. Let's go to maybe here. Okay. Let me select this solo part over here. Okay. So as you can see here, we still have our pre and post roll only of 1 bar. So by pressing the number 6, I will play the amount of the pre-roll until my selection. And then it stops. By pressing the number 7, I will play of the same amount of the pre-roll from the actual beginning of my selection until 1 bar. By pressing the number 8, I will play from half of what I have set it up within my pre and post roll until the end of my selection. And by pressing the number 9 on the alphanumeric keyboard, you will play 1 bar, which is the one that we have set up in our post roll, right after the end of your selection. So those are just easy way to maintain a precise selection and not to lose it and listen to what's before, after, or within the actual selection. Alright, right now I will explain. I'm gonna remove the pre and post roll, Command K, and I will explain what the actual numbers on the numeric keypad do. So we have already explained 0. 0 is your play and stop. Now by pressing 1 on the numeric keypad, I could rewind. By pressing 2, I can fast forward. Now I will move on to our print track. I could Shift R to enable the recording, and by pressing 3 on the numeric keypad, I could actually create an instant record or an instant punch. Z to undo, Shift R to remove the input monitoring, and the record enable. I will just re-input monitor the track. Now there are a few other useful features about the numeric keypad. The first one is the number 4. Number 4 enables you to turn on and off the loop playback. As you can see over here, within our transport, if I press the number 4, we're going to have this little green arrow circling the actual playback, which tells us that we can loop the playback. Matter of fact, let's get to this portion over here, and if I press play, if the loop playback is off, as soon as the cursor reaches the end of the selection, the playback will stop. The number 5 and 6 have to do with the record button. As a matter of fact, if I press the number 5, look what happened to our record button. It will turn into a loop record, which works really well, especially when you're tracking and you want to create a catalog of ideas to select afterwards. Or by pressing 6, you have something called quick punch. And quick punch is something that I have demonstrated previously, but let's go back into my print track, record enable. Let's say I want to punch in a section over here. So I could simply activate my pre and post roll. It's 1 bar. Can press play, and then by enabling quick punch, I can press 3 and punch in a precise recording measure. As you can see right now, the actual record started a little later. So right now what you can do is, yes, enabling the quick punch, and instead of pressing play and then record, I could just punch in the recording. And as you can see, you have a pre-roll, and the 2 red arrows are going to identify exactly where our recording is going to start. So if I press 3 right now, that's exactly what we needed to record. Even more, if I create a selection through my pre and post roll, I can make absolutely sure that this is the only part that is going to be recorded, and I get 1 bar of pre-roll and 1 bar of post-roll. So it's really that easy. I will press Z to undo. So the last few keys that we have to mention are the decimal point or the dot, and the enter on the numeric keypad. So the enter on the numeric keypad gives you access to a memory location. Now a memory location is something that in its simple form lets you create a memory location, as you can see here, on each part of the song for you to recall it afterwards. They do way more, and there's going to be a tutorial on what they do later on. But right now, let's say that here on bar 49, I want to create a new memory location, and I will call it Ciao. As you can see over here, now I have a new memory location. By pressing Command 5 on the numeric keypad, you can actually access the memory locations. Now, as you can see over here, each memory location starts with a number, and this is where the actual decimal point comes very handy. Now, let's say you could jump from one memory location to another by clicking. A faster way would be to use a combination of decimal point plus the numbers of the numeric keypad. So let's say I want to go on my solo. Now the solo here is labeled with an ID of 10. So in order to jump to my memory location 10, I have to press decimal point, number of the memory location, 10, and then decimal point. And there I am. I will remove the pre and post roll. But hold on a second, the producer wants to go to the intro. Okay, decimal point, 1, decimal point. Let's go to an end, decimal point, 14, decimal point. And there we are. Let's go to the last chorus, decimal point, 11, decimal point. I will close the memory location window, Command 5. And again, we can jump to other memory location by simply pressing decimal point, the number of the corresponding memory location, plus decimal point. So again, these shortcuts are absolutely a must-know if you want to really speed up your game in the industry and to make sure you are the fastest editor on the market. The green part of your keyboard is used to activate all the MIDI functions within your Pro Tools. Now, there are only last 4 keys on your extended keyboard left to explain. Now, all these 4 keys are related to MIDI controls. Now, the MIDI controls can be found on the actual transport window, Command 1, and are the one to the extreme right, or, as I have it over here, I have placed them on my toolbar. Now, the 4 MIDI functions are the metronome, the count off, the MIDI merge, and the wait for note. I'm gonna start with wait for note, which is this key over here, and that can be accessed by pressing F11. Now, wait for note pretty much works especially and only with MIDI tracks, and this allows you to record a track, arm a track to record, and until the moment you press a key on your keyboard, the recording won't start. Something very handy when you are focusing on the performance and having the click, so you don't have to wait on the count off because the recording will start whenever you're ready. The second MIDI control is the click. Now, by far, the click is the most misunderstood track by a lot of engineers, as a lot of people tend to do the mistake of muting the click track. The click track cannot be muted. Don't ever make this mistake. This is a huge mistake, and I tell you why. In many cases, this track is going to end up to be hidden within the track list. And as you can see, this is not even one of the biggest sessions I had to work on, but yet it's a pretty big session. So what happened is that maybe you're listening to a specific part and by mistake, you press the do to all command option and click on the mute. That means that you will unmute every single track in the Pro Tools edit window and in the track list. So all of a sudden you're going to be hearing to this very annoying click, and you won't be understanding from where the click is coming from. Therefore, in order to mute the click, which is the wrongest thing you can possibly do, there is an opposite shortcut that will let you toggle on and off the click. And that shortcut is the number 7 on the Numeric keypad. The number 7, as you can see, has toggled the click off, and now I've toggled the click on. Let me find a section where you can actually hear the effect of it. So let's go here. 7. 7 again. So again, it's also much faster to press the number 7 rather than scrolling across your session and figuring out where the click track has been stored. Moving along, we have another MIDI control, which has to do with these 2-letter errors over here. That's called MIDI Merge and can be toggled on and off by pressing the number 9 on the Numeric keypad. Now, MIDI Merge again has to do every time you are composing something within the MIDI editor window. Now, MIDI Merge pretty much lets you compose and layer sounds on top of the same MIDI performance. Every time the MIDI Merge is toggled off, you will record something on top of another MIDI recording and the previous recording will be deleted. So if you're planning to stock up on kick drums or perhaps you're layering some strings, I recommend you to leave MIDI Merge on. Lastly, we have our absolutely last shortcut for this course and for your entire keyboard, which is the count off. The count off can be toggled on and off by pressing 8 on the Numeric keypad. And it works in this way. I'm going to use my print track to demonstrate that. I will Shift R, record enable the track. So when the count off is off or grayed out, as soon as I press 3, the recording is going to start. Pressing 8 will enable my count off, and that means that in this case, as Pro Tools has defaulted, I have 2 bars of count off before the actual recording will start. You can always customize this, but I generally tend to leave it as it is as a default. So right now by pressing 3, we're gonna hear 2 bars count off and then the recording will start. And there you have it. Now we have fully studied how the keyboard works. Now you know how each single key behaves inside Pro Tools. So as I said before, remember, the keyboard inside a studio is possibly one of the most powerful musical instruments to edit and mix. The more you use it, the better you get. It's the exact same thing as learning how to play an instrument. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I will see you in the next one. Until then, ciao.